The plaza of Karzul Prime stretched like a wound carved into the heart of the Empire's capital, a perfect amphitheater for cruelty. Above it arched towers of obsidian glass, glinting in the pale sun of this alien world. A crowd of thousands pressed forward, scaled hides and feathered limbs and crystalline eyes, all turned toward the dais at the center. 10 crosses stood there, timbers of alien alloy shaped into symbols that every species instinctively understood. Not gallows, not firing squads. Crucifixion. Deliberate, archaic, humiliating. And today, the condemned were human. They had dressed the humans in plain gray shifts, shackled their hands outstretched upon the beams. The crowd expected screams, thrashing, perhaps pleas for mercy. What they received was silence broken by chuckles. One man, his beard streaked with frost from Titan's mines, grinned at the executioners. "You lot really know how to roll out the red carpet. Could have just given me a drink." Another, an engineer from Mars with tired eyes, looked up into the alien sun and muttered, "Guess this is the part where I'm supposed to cry? Sorry, already used up my tears watching the Jets lose 3 Super Bowls." Laughter rippled through the condemned, and that laughter unsettled the audience far more than agony would have. Commander Elias Vance sat in the front rows reserved for dignitaries, his dark uniform pressed to razor edges, his silver hair tied back with understated care. He clapped politely at the announcement of the charges: insurrection, sabotage, defiance of imperial will. His applause was soft, almost courteous, but his eyes betrayed nothing. He sipped the alien wine offered by a servant with 6 fingers, nodded his thanks, and murmured, "Not bad. A bit earthy. Reminds me of Napa before the fires." The alien magistrate, robed in crimson feathers, spread his arms. "Behold the weakness of man, a species too fragile to bend to the Empire, and thus doomed to break. Their crucifixion will be our message. Resist, and you will not only die, you will suffer." The crowd roared approval, but in the back ranks, a historian from the Avuan people tilted his head uneasily. "Strange choice," he whispered to a companion. "I've studied Earth history. Crucifixion does not end rebellions. It makes martyrs." His companion scoffed. "They are apes. Apes break." Yet the historian could not look away from the human's strange calm. The first nails pierced flesh. Hammers rang. The crowd leaned forward, hungry for the music of screams. Instead came a single grunt, then a man's dry chuckle. "That all you've got? I've had worse for my ex-wife's cooking." Another added through clenched teeth, "Careful with the carpentry, pal. OSHA would have your hide." Vance let the corners of his mouth twitch upward, just barely. He crossed one leg over the other, composed as if listening to a lecture rather than witnessing a spectacle of blood. When the alien magistrate glanced his way, seeking approval, Vance lifted his glass in a toast. Fascinating cultural display. Rome tried this once too. The magistrate frowned. Rome. Vance's smile thinned. Oh, just a little empire that thought crucifixion would keep order. Spoiler, it didn't end well. The condemned began to sing, ragged, off-key, but unmistakable. A hymn, old and human, carried across the square. The sound pierced the metallic air like defiance hammered into song. Children of the alien elite shifted uncomfortably. Even the guards faltered. The humans bled, yet their voices did not waver. The magistrate, desperate to regain control, gestured for silence. These apes mock their fate because they know no better. Witness how swiftly their strength will fail. But as hours dragged, as alien suns shifted overhead, the 10 remained upright, faces gray but eyes alight. One woman smiled through her blood and whispered to the alien executioner, "You'll want to remember my face. You'll be seeing it in your dreams." Whispers ran through the crowd now, doubt worming into arrogance. Some aliens stared in awe, others in fear. Why are they not afraid? Why do they jest? What do they know that we do not? By dusk, the plaza stank of iron and sweat, but the condemned still breathed, still mocked, still sang. Vance rose at last, smoothing his coat. He moved to the magistrate's side, voice soft as silk. "I must thank you. Truly. You've just given my people exactly what they needed." The magistrate blinked. A demonstration of your weakness? Vance's smile was knife-thin. No. A reason. He bowed with impeccable courtesy, turned, and walked calmly from the plaza. A subtle flick of his wrist sent a signal invisible to alien eyes, a pulse racing across encrypted channels faster than thought. The condemned saw him go and, one by one, their eyes brightened. A signal had been given. Their deaths were no longer meaningless. They were the spark. In the shadows of the Capitol, far from the plaza, relay towers lit with hidden transmissions. On distant worlds, Earth's bunkers, Martian caverns, Titan's frozen strongholds, alerts sounded. Screens flickered awake with a single phrase, Operation Extinction, authorized. The magistrate continued his oration, unaware that the galaxy had just tilted. Let the Empire remember this day, when man's last defiance was broken upon our will. The crowd cheered half-heartedly, but unease coiled in the air. Somewhere deep in their instincts, they knew. Something had shifted. The silence of the humans was not defeat. It was warning. As night cloaked Karzal Prime, the condemned whispered their last jokes, their last hymns, their last breath of laughter. One muttered through cracked lips, "Bet you wish you'd picked a firing squad." Huh? Another rasped, "Tell St. Peter to keep the gate open. We'll have company soon." Their words fluttered into the alien night, seeds carried on a wind none could see. Above, hidden among stars, human ships lay cloaked, silent as sharks. Their commanders listened to the dying voices and whispered back, "For the 10." And in the magistrate's chambers, after the crowd dispersed, one servant trembled as he replayed the images. Humans laughing while nailed to crosses. Humans singing while bleeding out. Humans smiling at death. He whispered to himself, not daring to be heard, "What kind of creatures are they?" On the edge of the plaza, where the last torch sputtered, Commander Vance paused before boarding his shuttle. His expression was calm, even gentle, but his eyes were cold steel. He looked back once at the 10 figures on the crosses, then up at the alien towers. In a voice no one heard, he murmured, "You wanted a message. You'll get one." His shuttle door sealed, engines whispered awake, and the stars received their quiet pulse. The hunt had begun. The signal rippled across the void like a ghost carried on wires. Unseen by alien eyes, unbroken by the Empire's vaunted filters, it threaded its way from Karzal Prime into the deep veins of space. On Earth, under the battered concrete ribs of Cheyenne Mountain, a console lit with a single phrase, "Operation Extinction, authorized." A young officer, no more than 20, blinked at the words and whispered, "God help them." His superior answered without looking up, "God help us all." Commander Elias Vance stood in the war room 2 days later, surrounded by flickering maps of stars, battlefields waiting to be drawn. He appeared unchanged from a courtly man who had sipped wine while 10 of his kind were nailed to crosses, but those who knew him recognized the minute shifts. His voice stripped of pleasantries, his posture sharpened like a drawn blade. "They think us broken," he said, his tone calm, almost gentle. "They believe crucifixion means submission. But you all know our history. Crucifixion never ends movements. It begins them." Around him, the room thrummed with human paradox. Soldiers strapping on armor while arguing over baseball stats. Engineers calibrating plasma rails while humming Bon Jovi. Hackers tossing popcorn into their mouths while rewriting alien encryption in minutes. The atmosphere was both electric and irreverent, as if war were another excuse for gallows humor. A Marine polished his helmet and muttered, "My grandma took worse beatings from Chicago winters." His partner snorted, "You're from Florida. You don't even know what snow is." The room laughed, tension unraveling into the easy banter that always unnerved aliens who mistook it for weakness. In the corner, Dr. Helena Chow unwrapped the tarp covering her invention, revealing a weapon whose very hum seemed alive. "Project Lawnmower," she said, deadpan, "because it cuts everything down, even the tough weeds." A Marine whistled low. "You couldn't call it something scarier? Like Hell Spitter." She rolled her eyes. "Scary is overrated. Reliability wins wars." Commander Vance allowed himself the faintest of smiles. Besides, nothing frightens aliens more than human domestic tools. They still think duct tape is sorcery. Across the galaxy, the Empire reeled. The crucifixion had been broadcast as triumph, yet instead of submission, human colonies fell silent. Surveillance stations reported empty towns on Mars, vanishing habitats on Europa, blank transmissions from orbital rings. A general barked, "They are fleeing." An analyst corrected him, voice shaking. "No, sir. They are gone. Entire populations relocated without a trace." Another dared to add, "This is organization, not flight. They are preparing." Laughter from the throne silenced him. The Emperor leaned forward, jeweled mandibles clicking. "They are prey, and prey does not hunt predators." But the whispers spread through the lower ranks. Foot soldiers remembered the humans' laughter on the crosses, the eerie defiance in their songs. The word martyr slithered through languages that had never needed one until now. In the black between stars, the human fleet gathered. Not gleaming armadas like the Empire's, but a patchwork of ingenuity. Retrofitted mining rigs bristling with cannons, freighters armed with railguns hidden in cargo holds, sleek corvettes painted in camouflage schemes that mocked alien aesthetics. Each bore a mark etched in light, 10 simple lines, crude but unmistakable, the tally of a crucified. Crews touched the symbol before departure, not as religion, but as vow. On Titan's ice fields, Sergeant Marcus Doyle led his platoon through final drills. He was broad, scarred, with a grin that came too easily. "All right, you apes," he bellowed. "Empire thinks crucifixion scares us. I say we crucify their logistics instead. Nail their supply chains to the wall." His troops laughed, tightening harnesses, checking rifles. One young soldier raised a hand. "Sarge, you think we can actually take them?" Doyle winked. "Kid, they think coffee is a chemical weapon. We've already won." Meanwhile, in orbit above Earth, Vance addressed a council of human leaders via hologram. Some wore uniforms, others suits stained with ink and sweat. "We cannot match them ship for ship," Vance said, voice steady. "But we don't need to. Humanity's strength has never been in numbers. It is in misdirection, persistence, and making the other guy feel like hell even when he wins." A senator from New York leaned forward. "What's the objective?" Vance's gaze hardened. "To dismantle the Empire from within. We will not just kill their soldiers. We will break their faith in their own invincibility." He outlined the first strikes: sabotage of comm relays, elimination of fuel depots, strikes so surgical they would appear supernatural. His calm delivery carried the weight of inevitability, the quiet certainty of a man who had already mapped every path to victory. Yet beneath it, his eyes burned with something colder than vengeance. It was calculation. The first operation unfolded near the rim. An alien supply convoy glided through void, unaware of the shadows trailing them. Suddenly, one freighter blinked out, then another, until only debris remained, spinning silently. Survivors reported hearing a voice in their comms before the explosions. A human voice, low and measured. "For the 10. Empire propaganda tried to drown the panic, but the message spread faster than sensors could smother it. "For the 10. It appeared scrawled in alien blood on captured ships, burned into the hulls of derelicts, whispered by defectors who swore humans had eyes like predators. Back in the human fleet, Vance walked among soldiers prepping for deployment. He moved quietly, offering no speeches, only presence. A private fiddled with a photo of his family. Vance paused, met his eyes, and said softly, "They will live free because you stand here." Another soldier asked, half joking, "Sir, what if this doesn't work?" Vance's smile was razor thin. "Then we make sure history remembers who we were, and history will terrify them." At the same time, alien council chambers boiled with discord. Generals argued to strike Earth directly, but others recoiled. "You saw them nailed to crosses," one whispered, and still they laughed. "What happens when we strike their home?" The Emperor hissed, "They are animals. And animals learn only under lash." Yet his eyes betrayed unease, for in the dark he, too, heard the echoes of human song. On Earth, in a bunker lined with maps of constellations, a group of scientists finalized their most audacious project. Dr. Chow presented it with the same deadpan calm. We call it the John Wick Protocol. Marines leaned in, eyebrows raised. Because once we activate it, the galaxy won't stop until we're done. Laughter broke out, nervous but eager. One soldier muttered, "I pity the poor bastards." Another replied, "Don't pity them. They crucified 10. Days bled into nights as the humans executed their first wave. Alien depots exploded in synchronized bursts across 5 sectors. Communications faltered, warlords panicked. And always, at the site of each strike, the same phrase lingered, "For the 10. Commander Vance received the reports with the serenity of a conductor hearing his symphony unfold. He sat at the center of his war room, sipping tea brewed in a dented kettle, as if war were simply another day. Officers around him relayed casualties, enemy movements, tactical gains. He only nodded, eyes on the broader map. "They still don't understand," he murmured. "They think this is vengeance. It is not. It is instruction." One evening, as Earth spun in shadow, Vance stepped onto the balcony of the orbital station. Stars glittered indifferent, but his gaze pierced them as though he read destinies in their light. Beside him, Dr. Chow asked softly, "Do you ever wonder if we go too far?" He did not turn. Too far was when they nailed 10 of ours to crosses and broadcast it to the stars. Everything after is just consequence. Below, recruits sang the same hymn once sung on the crucifixions, their voices rough but steady. The sound carried upward, faint yet unyielding, and for a moment Vance closed his eyes. The song was promise, was knife, was fire. In the Empire's capital, panic grew. Families whispered of human ghosts that haunted the void. Soldiers muttered about invisible fleets. Commanders argued, but offered no reassurance. And always, beneath it all, the question, what kind of species laughs on a cross? The answer loomed, unseen, as humanity's preparations reached their crescendo. Fleets stood ready. Weapons gleamed. The phrase had become oath, uniting miners, soldiers, scientists, politicians, even children who chalked 10 lines onto walls as sigils of defiance. Commander Vance stood once more before his people, gaze sweeping across soldiers who had transformed fear into steel. "This is not about revenge," he said quietly. "This is about teaching the galaxy one simple truth. Hurt one of us, and you invite the fury of all." He let the silence hang, then added, "The Empire wanted martyrs. We will give them something greater." The soldiers leaned in, breath held, waiting. Vance's voice dropped to a whisper, yet it carried like thunder. "We will give them extinction." The words settled like ice across the room. No cheers rose, only grim nods, as if the vow were too heavy for noise. Each soldier absorbed it, a covenant sealed not with applause, but with resolve. And far beyond, hidden in the endless black, fleets stirred. Weapons armed, systems aligned. Humanity was no longer prey. Humanity was the hunter. The Emperor, pacing in his throne chamber, stopped suddenly as a courier rushed in, trembling. "Your Majesty, another depot destroyed." "And on the wreckage," he faltered. The Emperor's voice was low, dangerous. "Speak." The courier whispered, 10 lines. Again, always 10. The Emperor turned toward the night beyond his windows, mandibles tight with fury that tasted too much like fear. "So be it. Let them come." But even as he spoke, he felt the shadow of inevitability, the weight of a trap already closing. The Empire summoned its might to the proving grounds, a vast arena of stars where fleets gathered like storm clouds. From a dozen conquered worlds came cruisers gleaming in crimson and black, carriers bulging with soldiers, frigates sharpened like knives. It was the largest assembly since the Empire's founding, and its purpose was singular: to annihilate the humans who had dared to wound their pride. Banners unfurled across the void, projectors blazed symbols of power, and proclamations rang through every channel. "The apes will come. They will squeal. They will break. Here we shall end their rebellion." But the humans did not come. Not directly. Instead, the proving grounds awoke to peculiar broadcasts that were not their own. Billboards meant to display imperial victories now flickered with alien confusion. One screen played an ancient human film scene of a lone man crawling through vents muttering, "Come out to the coast, we'll get together, have a few laughs." Another flashed grainy footage of a mustached man shouting, "I'll be back." Laughter broke through alien ranks, nervous and high-pitched, for they did not understand but felt mocked nonetheless. Commander Elias Vance observed from the bridge of the Resolute a retrofitted freighter, bristling with hidden guns. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, calm as ever, watching chaos ripple through the Empire's mighty armada. Officers turned to him for orders, but he spoke softly, as though narrating a lesson. Confusion first, doubt next, then fear. That is the order of collapse. Human infiltrators had slipped into the Empire's systems weeks prior, rewriting code, embedding little absurdities. Supply ships refused to unlock unless captains recited knock-knock jokes. Targeting systems now required passwords like "Pretty Please 123." One destroyer lost control of its anthem channel and blared Earth rock ballads until its crew tore out the speakers in despair. To the Empire, it was humiliation. To humanity, it was the beginning of the trap. The Empire answered with fury. Fleets spread out, hunting for human ships, certain the enemy must be hiding nearby. Yet each time they thought they cornered prey, they found only wreckage. Supply depots gutted, fuel lines hacked, soldiers missing. The words for the 10 marked every site, like blood scrawled on the walls. An alien general slammed his claws against the table. "They taunt us like ghosts." Another growled, "Then we burn the ghosts." Yet none could deny the truth whispered in their barracks. Humans did not fight fair. In the heart of the fleet, young cadets muttered of the crucifixions. One asked his superior, "If pain means nothing to them, how do we break them?" The officer could not answer. The question lingered like poison. Vance called a meeting aboard the Resolute, his command circle arrayed before him. Dr. Helena Chow stood with datapads stacked like bricks. Sergeant Doyle leaned against the wall with irreverent ease, and young Lieutenant Arjun Patel adjusted his glasses nervously. Vance poured tea for himself, the quiet ritual absurd amid the glow of war maps. "They believe we are shadows," he said calmly. "Let's give them something worse. Let's make them believe we are inevitability." Chow tapped her pad. "We've mapped their fleet positioning. They've herded themselves into the proving grounds, just as predicted. One push, and they'll collapse on themselves." Doyle grinned. "Like dominoes at a bar fight." Patel frowned. "But, sir, they still outnumber us 10-1. Vance stirred his tea. "Numbers mean nothing if fear does the fighting." The operation began with silence. No barges, no grand assaults. Just whispers. Human operatives hijacked comms to murmur in alien languages, voices eerily familiar, mimicking dead comrades. Crews awoke to their own ship logs rewritten with phrases like, "We are already inside." Captains found maps altered, showing their fleets surrounded by red markers that weren't there. Soldiers swore they glimpsed human shadows walking corridors. Fear spread like contagion. Then came the first strike. A human corvette, invisible until the moment of fire, unleashed a lance of plasma that sheared through an Imperial carrier. The explosion lit the void, reflected in 1,000 alien eyes. Before the debris settled, another strike gutted a frigate. Then silence again. The Empire retaliated with barges into empty space, burning fuel and fury against phantoms. Vance watched from the Resolute, serene as a man at chess. "We strike, vanish, and let their paranoia do the rest. Already, they kill each other in the dark." Indeed, reports flowed in of friendly ships firing on allies mistaken for ghosts. The Empire's mighty fleet cracked itself before humanity fired more than a handful of shots. Inside an alien command cruiser, General Karvek paced, mandibles twitching. "They are everywhere and nowhere. This is not war, it is sorcery." His advisor, older and softer, murmured, "Perhaps that is the point. Crucifixion was meant to terrify them. Instead, it gave them this resolve. We made martyrs, and now we reap monsters." Karvek spat. "Apes cannot master war." Yet his words rang hollow even to his own ears. On the Resolute, Doyle watched a live feed of alien ships colliding in panic, one frigate ramming another. He chuckled. It's like watching drunks stumble out of a pub. Chow shot him a glare. Don't get cocky. They're dangerous, even blind. Vance lifted his cup, eyes never leaving the burning screen. Dangerous, yes, but already defeated. They just haven't realized it. As the battle stretched, the humans escalated. Instead of killing ships outright, they disabled them, leaving hulks adrift with ominous carvings on their hulls. 10 tally marks. Alien survivors spoke of it in whispers, voices trembling. They don't kill us. They mark us. The psychological toll outweighed any tactical loss. Entire squadrons surrendered rather than risk, facing the invisible hunters again. But the climax came when the Empire, desperate to force humanity into the open, activated their ultimate weapon, the Sun Spear, a colossal cannon hidden in the heart of the proving grounds. Its power could burn a planet clean. The Emperor himself broadcast across channels, mandibles gleaming. You are shadows no longer. Behold the light that will erase you. The humans let the broadcast play. Then, as the Sun Spear powered, its systems flickered and died. Screens across the Empire's fleet lit with a single human phrase. Access denied. On the Resolute, Patel blinked. We hacked their superweapon. Chow shrugged, weary. Weeks ago. We just let them sweat until now. Doyle roared with laughter. God, I love this job. Vance set down his empty cup. Now they understand. Their strength is ours to play with. Their greatest weapon is already our pawn. Panic erupted across the Empire's fleet. Commanders screamed. Soldiers deserted. Ships fled in disorder. The humans pressed the advantage, striking surgically at engines, leaving survivors adrift with only terror to keep them company. The trap had sprung fully. The Empire had marched into its own grave, and humanity had only needed to close the door. But Vance knew this was not victory. Not yet. Standing at the viewport, watching alien fire consume itself, he whispered, "Fear is only the first lesson. The real war begins now." His officers looked at him, sensing the gravity in his tone. Chow asked softly, "Then what is the next lesson?" Vance's eyes hardened, reflecting the blaze of dying fleets. Extinction. In the chaos, a final transmission slipped through Imperial channels, one none could trace. A human voice, low and polite, carried across the stars. For the 10. Every alien who heard it felt their blood run cold. And deep in the Empire's core, in the Emperor's gilded palace, alarms blared. His guards rushed to seal the throne room, but too late. The holoscreens within flickered, hijacked once more. 10 figures appeared, human silhouettes nailed to crosses, yet smiling through blood. Then the image shifted to fleets assembling in the dark, more than the Empire had guessed possible. A message etched in light burned across the chamber. We are coming. The Emperor's claws tightened on his throne, fury warring with dread. For the first time, he felt the edge of inevitability pressing against him, a trap already sprung. The galaxy reeled from the humiliation at the proving grounds. Alien fleets limped home shattered, their soldiers whispering of human ghosts that walked through fire and mocked death itself. Every wreck bore the same tally marks. Every survivor repeated the same words. For the 10. Panic spread faster than proclamations could contain it. On outlying worlds, conquered species dared to hope. Some whispered prayers to the humans, as though to avenging spirits. Others hid in terror, uncertain whether this new force brought liberation or annihilation. In the throne chamber of the Empire, the Emperor stood before his council, rage carved into every line of his form. His jeweled mandibles snapped shut with a sound like a guillotine. "They are vermin," he hissed, voice trembling not with certainty, but with fury at his own doubt. "We will burn their worlds. We will scour their bloodlines." Yet as he spoke, his eyes betrayed the shadow creeping into his thoughts, the memory of humans smiling while dying, their voices singing hymns through agony. No empire could erase such defiance. Far from his palace, aboard the human flagship Resolute, Commander Elias Vance prepared the final movement of his design. His face was as calm as ever, silver hair neat, hands steady. but his officers had learned to fear that serenity more than any outburst. In the war room, stars glittered across the holomap like prey pinned for the hunt. "Extinction is not slaughter," Vance said quietly, his tone that of a professor explaining a theorem. "Extinction is inevitability. We dismantle not their armies, but their belief in their future." Dr. Helena Chow studied the map, fatigue etched deep into her features. "They are collapsing already. Economies disrupted, supply lines shredded. Another push, and they'll fracture without us firing." Sergeant Doyle grinned wolfishly. "Or we can fire anyway. Nothing says closure like a good explosion." The soldiers chuckled, but Vance raised a hand, silencing the room. His eyes, cold steel beneath polite composure, fixed on the heart of the map, the Emperor's palace world. The head must see the blade. Only then will the body understand it has died. The strike began with whispers. Human operatives embedded across the Empire triggered dormant codes. Banking systems collapsed overnight, their ledgers rewritten to zero. Entire legions awoke to find weapons refusing to respond, their rifles demanding passcodes like "knock knock, who's there?" Broadcasts intended to reassure citizens instead showed human faces painted in shadow, murmuring, "We are already inside." The galaxy shuddered beneath invisible hands. On the palace world, alarm sirens wailed. Ships scrambled into orbit, defenses powered. Yet the sky above burned with controlled precision. Human fleets arrived not in overwhelming numbers, but in surgical silence, sliding from cloak with the inevitability of the tide. They did not bombard cities. They did not fire at civilians. They moved only toward the palace, each ship a needle pointing at the Empire's throat. Inside, the Emperor clutched his staff, surrounded by trembling generals. "They cannot breach these walls. No one ever has." But even as he spoke, the holoscreens flickered. Images of the crucifixion returned. 10 human figures nailed to beams, their blood glistening, their laughter echoing. The images shifted to the present, fleets advancing, soldiers chanting the same phrase. "For the 10. The Emperor roared in denial, but the sound rang hollow. On the ground, human squads moved through the capital like shadows. Sergeant Doyle led one unit through shattered courtyards, his voice light with banter despite the ruin. "Reminds me of Mardi Gras, just with fewer beads and more corpses." His troops laughed, their fear dissolved into grim camaraderie. Aliens fired from balconies, but every ambush was met with human ferocity, efficient, precise, merciless. The song of battle was punctuated by human voices, cracking jokes even as they killed. To the aliens, it was madness. To humanity, it was tradition. Dr. Chow's team hacked the palace defenses with quiet ease. Screens blinked, turrets turned on their own masters, gates swung wide. She allowed herself a small smile. Nothing like alien arrogance to make a firewall this soft. Her assistant grinned nervously. "Feels almost unfair." She shook her head. "No, this is justice." At the center of it all, Vance walked with deliberate calm through the palace halls, flanked by soldiers but untouched by haste. His eyes scanned frescoes of conquest painted across ceilings, statues of alien emperors towering in arrogance. He paused once, gazing at a mural depicting the Empire's founding. "So fragile, the things they think eternal," he murmured, then continued forward. At last, the throne chamber doors burst open. The Emperor rose, towering and jeweled, rage wrapped around fear. "You dare," he snarled, voice echoing through marble and glass. "You dare invade the heart of eternity." Vance stepped forward, unarmed save for the weight of inevitability. His tone was polite, almost conversational. "Eternity is such a fragile word. Rome thought it eternal. So did Carthage. So did every empire that believed itself unassailable. Do you know what they all have in common?" The Emperor sneered. "Speak your poison, ape." Vance's smile was thin as a blade. They ended. The Emperor raised his staff, energy crackling. Guards closed in. Yet before he could strike, every screen in the chamber lit once more. The crucified humans appeared again, but this time their heads lifted. Their eyes blazed, and their voices thundered in unison. We chose this. The Emperor froze, mandibles parting in shock. Vance's voice cut through like a whisper sharpened to steel. You thought you killed them. In truth, they volunteered. Their sacrifice was the key. You didn't break us, you freed us to act. The revelation rippled through the chamber like thunder. The crucifixion had not been tragedy, but trap. The deliberate spark that lit the Extinction War. The Emperor staggered back, realization crashing in. He had not destroyed humanity's resolve. He had written his empire's epitaph. Guards wavered, some dropping weapons, terror carving through loyalty. One fell to his knees, whispering, they wanted this, all of this. Vance advanced, each step quiet, inevitable. We are not here to rule you. We are not here to enslave. We are here to remind the galaxy of a truth it has forgotten. Hurt one of us, and you invite the fury of all. The Emperor's staff shook in his hands. He tried to summon defiance, but his voice faltered. You cannot rule what you destroy. Vance stopped before the throne, meeting his eyes with calm fire. We don't want to rule. We want you gone. Outside, the human fleets unleashed their precision strike. Palace defenses crumbled, towers toppled. The sky burned with controlled fire. Yet no civilian homes were touched, no children harmed. Humanity's wrath was not blind slaughter. It was cold judgment. Aliens across the capital watched their rulers fall, while human banners carved 10 tallies into the night sky. The Emperor stumbled, his power disintegrating. Vance leaned in, voice quiet enough for only him to hear. This ends with you. Not because you crucified 10. Because you failed to understand what that meant. The Emperor tried one last strike, staff raised high, but Vance moved with sudden ferocity. A blade slid free from his sleeve, striking true. The jeweled tyrant collapsed, his mandibles twitching, his eyes wide with disbelief. He fell against his throne, crown toppling, blood gleaming beneath banners of fire. The chamber went silent. Soldiers, humans, and trembling aliens alike stared at the body of the ruler who had called himself eternal. Vance stood tall, slipping the blade back, as though it had been nothing more than another piece of protocol. His voice rose, calm and terrible. The Empire is finished. Tell your worlds, this was done not for conquest, but for the 10. Remember them. Fear us if you must. But never again will humanity be broken. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. Then, from every human throat, a chant rose, low, ragged, yet thunderous in its weight. For the 10. The sound shook the chamber, rattled its marble bones, and carried out into the night beyond. Across the galaxy, transmissions carried the moment. Conquered peoples watched the Emperor fall, heard the chant echo, saw the tally marks burn into the sky. Some cheered, some trembled, but none doubted. A new reality had dawned. Humanity had declared itself not as conquerors, but as predators too dangerous to provoke. On the balcony of the ruined palace, Vance gazed across the capital burning with precision fire. Dr. Chow stepped beside him, eyes hollow with the weight of what they had wrought. It's done, she whispered. We've broken them. Vance's gaze remained fixed on the stars. No, he murmured. This is only the beginning. Fear will spread faster than fire. It will consume what remains of them long before we lift another blade. Behind them, soldiers stood silent, staring at the sky etched with tally marks. Each line glowed like a scar, like a vow. The galaxy would remember. And far across the void, in hidden chambers untouched by flame, alien survivors huddled together. One whispered the words passed from dying lips to living ears. Humans do not fear crucifixion. They turn it into war. The others shivered, for they knew the truth had already taken root. In the silence after fire, Vance closed his eyes. He saw again the 10 on their crosses, smiling through pain, laughing in the face of death. He whispered, softer than breath, "Rest now. It's finished." Yet even as he spoke, a console flickered alive behind him. A transmission, untraceable, carrying through the stars. 10 tally marks. And beneath them, words that chilled even him. We are not finished.